Hello and welcome back to Storytime with Mary's Child Development Series. We're still loving our conversations with Baba Darzi, who is a clinical psychologist from Hearts and Minds Aloud. Hi Baba, how are you today?
Hi Mary, I'm very well as always. How you doing?
I'm doing really good today. And today we want to talk about habits and how we can start good habits young. As somebody who works with people's emotional and mental well-being, what do you think when people say good habits start young? Do you think that's a true statement?
That is a very true statement. Now, if I want to refer to psychology, you must know the concept of conditioning, where you are able to teach a habit or a response pattern using things like positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and consequences. Now, that sounds all fancy. When you bring it to the home, especially with children, you are also able to do that with them. So you teach them. We know that children learn very quickly, by the way. So they will be picking those habits, whether or not you teach them, and you don't want them to be picking not so positive ones from outside the home. So it's best for parents to sort of focus and nurture the kind of habits that they would like their children to pick up or to learn. So they do that by modeling these behaviors themselves. Like we've always said that the parent is the best, teacher, the best example. For example, positive habits or attitudes have positive consequences and vice versa with punishments and all of that. So yes, I believe that children pick habits very quickly. It's the age where, lots of learning of habits go on and, parents want to direct it properly.
Oh, brilliant. That makes a lot of sense. And I've heard this saying about if you want to create a habit or you want something to stick with you, you have to do it at least 7 times for it to stick. So is it true when they say whatever you feed will grow?
Absolutely. Well, I guess whatever you're paying attention to, if you're paying attention to it, it means a lot to you and you are being intentional about putting effort into it. Chances are that yes, you whatever it is will develop, and to use your word, will grow. It might grow at a different pace than somebody else's, but definitely you will see an increase in that. In this case, habit, because that's what we're talking about. And it's interesting you mentioned 7 days. Sometimes it says it takes about 21 days for habit formation. When you're thinking about habit formation, you want to have practice for about 21 days. It says that it's an average, but I also think it's good to be mindful about the fact that we are very different. Some people can go 21 days and break the habit again. I think what's more important is intention and resolve, and deciding that this is so important to me. So I'm not beyond that whole 21-day thing. It's something that I want to stick with me. So you want to be invested in, you want to invest in it for a longer period, possibly a lifetime, if it's something that valuable.
That's great. So that means I have to do my skipping for at least 21 days for it to become a habit.
Indeed.
So obviously, Baba, we absolutely love reading and we really encourage kids to read on Storytime with Mary. And we recently did a post about how it's important to start kids reading young. And obviously that's why we're reading all these books to young children at such a young age. But I want you to help us as parents appreciate the emotional bond formed with books and with reading when kids start at a really young age.
The bond comes from, I think most of it comes from children identifying with the stories, the characters, and the scenarios they read about. Because, of course, we are thinking about introducing your children to age-appropriate books, correct? So the scenarios that are described, they're able to relate to, and they're able to use their imagination for scenarios that they feel are interesting and they don't have immediately available to them. I don't know how many people can relate to this, but if you ever read Enid Blyton books, okay, she managed to describe things and environments to the extent that you felt like you were part of those environments. And after so many years, you still remember them. I'm sure there are a number of writers who did that, but I reference her because, together with some of my friends, we read her books, and even today we talk about them. So children have that, they're able to use their imagination very well. So that's where that emotional bond or connection is formed. Sometimes you hear them refer to certain characters. Like we spoke about, I think a week or two ago, that some of the stories or narrations children might tell us may be from things they've read in books, right? And it's great that they have that connection there and want to pass it on in real life, as long as they are not twisting the truth. I mean, they're able to understand, they're able to recognize and understand different emotions. So based on the stories that are told, if they find that people are expressing certain emotions, the basic one, for example, being anger, frustration, all of that, they're able to identify with those. Okay, so they can express them to you, for example. And I guess once they are able to express that, and if the parent is responding positively to that, it also builds self-confidence. Okay, so it is a great place for children to start nurturing an understanding of emotion, and then, eventually it builds or it leads to their emotional development as well.
Oh, brilliant. That's great, Baba. And you really touched my heart, because I loved Enid Blyton books when I was growing up. I had the whole collection. I used to read all of them. So, and you're right, actually, when you start reading young, I think it sticks with you, because I still obviously love reading now. That's awesome. So, Baba, as I'm a little bit older now, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But help us kind of dig deeper into that. Why is that? Is it something that's kind of inherent within us?
Here's the thing. Here's how I explain it. Change is hard. Change is good. Most of the time, change is good, but it's hard. We are adaptable. Human beings are adaptable, but it's not, being adaptable doesn't always mean it's easy or pleasant. So the hard part, I guess, is what most of us focus on. And then we sort of sum it up and say change is difficult or it's impossible. I think that change is difficult, not impossible. And if you're talking about people, for example, it's possible for a person to change. They need to have the right motivation, however. So the right motivation isn't there, it probably won't happen. Which is why sometimes we say that it's easier for children to pick up habits, because I guess at that point they are very open, they are very curious. They're not preconditioned to, too many things. So it's easy to build patterns there, and then over time they decide which ones they want to filter throughout and all that. So I think it is possible for an old dog to learn new tricks. It might take longer, it will be a more painful process. But if what we said about 21 days is anything to go by, then yes, that dog will have to learn those tricks for at least 21 days, and then, carry on, decide what they want to do. If they want to, carry on learning or throw that away or something. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And I agree. I think you can still learn something even, at any age, really. It's just how committed you are to that learning. But I think that it's obviously a lot easier for children to pick things up quicker, and for it to stick with them as they grow up as well. So that's great. Baba, is there anything you want to add? Because this is such an important conversation that we're having, making sure that children are learning good habits at a young age. Reading to children at a young age is really important as well. Is there anything you want to add before we say bye for another week?
I think that our conversation today has captured it, except just keep doing the good work. These are really important conversations. I enjoy them too, and I'm sure that our listeners enjoy them. And I'll ask our listeners to join me in saying a very happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, Baba. And thank you all as well for joining us today. As usual, these are such important conversations that we're having, and we hope we've imparted some new knowledge onto you today. So enjoy your day, and we'll speak again next time. Bye.